In Genesis 1, God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. So he's talking to someone who he's going to involve in creating, and that's not angels, because angels don't create. So who's he talking to, Josh?
No, it's not true, because involving hold on a second. Involving them in creation does not mean that they're actually going to create themselves.
You want to bet?
Sorry?
You want to bet? It says, let us make man in our image after our likeness. There's no need to talk in the plural, let us make man in our image and our likeness, if God alone is creating, unless there's someone else involved in the creation. So don't give me a post hoc explanation. Deal with
unless it is teaching us the lesson that a leader should always consult with those beneath them, even if those beneath them are not actually going to take part in the action.
Don't give me your cop-out rabbinic interpretation. I know
why not? Can you argue with it?
Yes, I'm going to argue it very easily.
Go ahead.
Because in Genesis 2:7, I'm going to show you who the other entity was that God used to create man. Be patient. Take it easy. I'm not your rabbis who give this lame excuse.
I know what you're going to say. I know you're going to say the voice.
What is the breath of life that God breathed into the nostrils of man? What's the breath of life?
The breath of life?
What's the breath of life?
It's the soul.
No.
Right? He breathes in the soul.
No.
It comes in. Right?
No. The breath of life is the breath that makes man alive.
Yeah, and that is the soul.
No, that is the spirit. Hold on, Josh. Let me show you.
No, it's the soul.
I'm going to use your own books, not me. No, it's the spirit. Here, I'm going to show you. Oh, here you go. From your own Tanakh. I didn't use the Christian Bible. Who created man? The Spirit of God made me, and the breath of the Almighty keeps me alive. So this is Hebrew parallelism. See if you know Hebrew parallelism, because I don't know if the rabbis taught you that yet. In the second line, the Almighty corresponds to who in the first line?
God, because God is the Almighty.
Oh, good. So the breath in the second line corresponds to who in the first line?
Spirit.
You just destroyed your case and proved mine. So the breath is the Spirit. Good job, Josh.
When it says in Genesis 2, and he blew into his nostrils the soul of life.
It doesn't say soul, dude. Stop saying soul. It says breath.
Neshama means soul.
No, that word there wasn't. We're not talking about neshama. We're talking about the breath of life.
Here. That's not what it says. Vayipach ba'apov nishmayim.
Okay, hold on.
And he blew, Vayipach, and he blew ba'apov in his nostrils. Life.
What is neshama lexically?
The neshama is the soul.
Wait. Read the lexicon. Hold on. I don't.
Yeah, the lexicon says breath, spirit, and soul.
And also puff, wind, anger, vital breath, divine inspiration, intellectual, and animal. And then here in Deuteronomy 20:16, what's the word here?
You shall not allow
anything that soulless or anything that breathes.
It's a very silly translation.
Translated anything that what?
Anything that has a soul. You shall not you shall not let live any soul. That's what it. That's the literal translation.
It's a silly translation, right? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, it is a silly translation.
Okay, take it easy, bro. Wait, so how did Rashi translate it? And he breathed into his nostrils the soul of life. No, take it.
Right.
Dude, take it easy. In Genesis 2, these translations are all bad. We're going to go with yours. In Genesis 2, do you agree that in Genesis 1, the Spirit played a role in creation?
Played a role?
Yeah, right here. Because it's right here.
I mean, he was hovering over, the Spirit of God was hovering over the water.
Do you agree? Okay, do you agree that in Genesis 2, it's expanding on Genesis 1?
It's filling in the details of Genesis 1.
And do you agree that in Genesis 2, the God of Genesis 1 is Hashem, because you say Hashem of Genesis 2? Okay, so now what I want to ask you, to consistency, where do you find the Spirit in Genesis 2? What role does he play in Genesis 2?
He's not mentioned.
I didn't ask. Just like you believe Genesis is an expansion of Genesis 1, and therefore it's filling out the details, can you show me where the Spirit is mentioned and the specific role he plays in the creation of man? Because Job 33:4 says, the Spirit God had made me. But according to you, that's not Genesis 1:26. So don't do the tap dance. Because when God said, let us make man, that wasn't the Spirit, and the breath is not the Spirit. So where did Job 33:4 get that the Spirit of God made man? Where do you find that in Genesis 1 and 2? Because it's hearkening back to Genesis 1 and 2. I want you and Rashi to bail yourself out of this one. So people understand what I'm saying? Let me show you the verse again. Unless you're saying Job made it up. Okay. Even a blind man can say that Job 33:4 has in mind Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. But according to you, Genesis 2, the breath of life should be the soul of life, not breath, because you want to tap dance. That's okay. I'll tap dance with you and Rashi. I like to dance. I need to lose weight. So now, where do you find in Genesis 1 and 2 that the Spirit of God made man? Don't appeal to Genesis 1:26, because you just said God wasn't speaking to the Spirit. So where does it say in your Torah, Bereshit, the Spirit made man? Show it to me from Genesis 1 and 2. Yeah. And since you don't like the fact that Neshemet was translated breath, I'm going to show you Psalm 30. Let me go to Chabad. Okay. Now you want to see where the Spirit created the stars? Okay. To prove my point that the breath of life is the Spirit that comes out, not the soul of man. Because I'm going to ask you another question. But see, I told you I'm going to let Rashi to help you to refute me, so I can take both you and Rashi at the same time.
Hold on, I've had a look. I've consulted the Malbim, which is another one of our commentaries, and I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you that the specific aspect of God that created man was the Spirit of God.
Nice. Oh, so I was right after 15 minutes of wasting my time? I was right?
I didn't do it first. I hadn't come across that argument.
Do you now admit God was speaking to the Spirit?
No, God wasn't speaking to the Spirit.
Who did he say, let us make man to? Let us make man then.
You're not going to find that in any of our commentaries, that God spoke to the Spirit.
I know I'm not going to find it in your commentaries because you're in bed. Okay, all right, okay. Well, guys, after 20 minutes to waste my time, he said I was right about the Spirit created. Okay. Now, my friend, who made the host of heaven? What's the word breath? Don't tell me it's neshemet, because I know what it is, but I want you to tell me what is it.
Right there, it's ruach.
Say it again.
Ruach.
And the ruach came out of what?
His mouth, the breath of his mouth.
Just like the breath came out of God's mouth that he blew?
Yeah.
Oh, and you don't see that the breath is the Spirit then?
Yeah, with the breath of his mouth, all their host. Yeah.
Okay, but hold on. No, that's not my point. You wasted 20 minutes of my life, and I'm not getting younger. That's okay, hold on. So when it says in Genesis 2:7, when God breathed the breath of life, that breath that came out of him, I said, that's the Spirit that gives life. You go, no, the soul. So now it says that the ruach comes out of his mouth. Isn't that also where the breath comes out from God's mouth?
I mean, based on this, there's the breath coming out of his mouth. The ruach comes from his mouth.
But it says ruach now. So now you can't play the game saying it's neshemat, meaning soul. So now if the ruach comes out of his mouth, then when God breathes, what is he breathing out of himself?
He's breathing the breath out of himself.
What is that breath here, buddy?
Ruach piv, the breath of his mouth.
So you just admit ruach is what? Say it again. Ruach means what?
Breath.
Only breath? Are we going to play that game?
It means both.
Oh, so you just now helped me prove that what God breathes out of his mouth is the very ruach and spirit. So why'd you waste 20 minutes of my time when you now agreed with me?
Well, because I haven't come across this argument before. That's why.
Whoa, okay.